Hello, and welcome to Adobe's think tank. We're here in New York City, actually on the streets of Times Square, and we've transformed a shipping container into this glass-walled Adobe think tank. And we're joined today by one of the thought leaders and industry leaders in digital advertising, Dennis Startsev. Dennis is a principal at Deloitte Consulting. And Dennis, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, and I must say this is one glamorous container.
It is glamorous, isn't it? And we're as live as the people here behind us.
That's right.
Dennis, give us a little 30-second overview of Deloitte and your role at Deloitte.
Sure. Well, Deloitte is a very large professional services organization, but Deloitte Digital specifically is a bit unique. We are a creative digital consultancy, and we see it as our mission to help companies move away from random acts of digital to truly realize their ambitions in the digital era. And to do that, we've brought together a very comprehensive and very unique mix of capabilities ranging from creative to technology to strategy, and really mixing the expertise in marketing, in sales, in service with expertise in cloud services and cyber risk. And it's really that combination of unique capabilities that works together as a whole that allows us to help our clients unlock and truly deliver on their ambitions.
This is the digital transformation you talk about, these kind of digital ambitions that companies have. They've been going through this transformation for quite a while now.
They have.
And going through it. You've been in the industry, my understanding is, for about 18 years now. Talk to me a little bit about some of the challenges that you've seen and that you continue to see marketers and advertisers face as they try to transform into companies delivering great digital experiences.
Sure. Well, the definition of digital and what digital means and brings to companies has evolved over the years. And it's rewarding to see that companies are beginning to realize that digital is not a set of technologies, it's not a set of new tactics, it's a fundamentally new way of understanding and interacting with the world. And that holds true in advertising as well. Digital advertising goes beyond delivering ads through digital channels.
Yeah.
It goes towards how advertising is consumed, how it's understood by consumers and customers out there. What's really interesting, though, is that despite a pretty massive change, companies are still challenged, right? And when we look at advertising, think about this. Companies today are working harder and harder to achieve the same or marginally better results. Right? There is more content, there are more formats, more channels, more technology, more data, and yet ad recall is down, generally speaking, right? And that is because there is a lot of inertia, there is a lot of institutional memory, if you will, in the media and the advertising space, which is very relevant to the whole conversation of digital. Sure, we're seeing automation emerge, right? Programmatic has started moving the ship, but it's a very, very large ship to turn. And on the agency side, there are processes that are related to that are really ingrained. They're decades old. They've worked really well, but they worked in the old world, right? Before this digital transformation and digital behaviors came to be. And on the client side, our clients are looking for greater transparency, better performance, greater accuracy, but it's not an easy equation to solve, right? Really figuring out what should they insource, what should they outsource, how should their talent and organizational models change in support of becoming digital from the media, advertising, or even broader perspective. So it's a pretty fascinating space.
You talk about scale and fragmentation. Scale of the amount of content people are consuming, the amount of content that brands need to produce. You talk about scale in terms of the number of channels that they interact with. How do you see companies that are effectively addressing this scale and this fragmentation? What are they doing in order to really effectively meet some of those challenges?
Well, the companies that are truly beginning to take advantage of that and operationalize that scale, if you will, are recognizing that they can't scale linearly, right?
Yeah.
But the place that they need to start and the place that they do start is thinking through what their business objectives and results need to be, but as importantly, what their consumer and customer experiences need to be, right? It's the companies that are beginning to look from outside in that are becoming successful in that space. And if I look at the media and advertising specifically, there are There are a number of things that they do well, but there are two that I think are the most important. First, these companies are beginning to take control of their data. They're realizing sort of that this old world where their data was locked in a black box in various pockets and agencies in a very large and fragmented ecosystem has value and needs to work together. So these companies are investing in internalizing their data and taking control so that they can integrate data across different buying mechanisms that relate to media and advertising, but also their broader marketing data, their sales data, their operational data, and then enrich it and enhance it with second, third-party data so that they can use it across different channels and functions and mechanisms. So really taking control of the data is one of the big shifts that they're making. The other big shift is internalizing and building a level of control and governance around their media spend and advertising. So, and it doesn't mean not working with their agencies. There's a very large, very complex ecosystem of trusted partners, media agencies that these companies continue to work with. But what they are doing is investing in internalizing some of the media platforms, as well as processes, governance, and strategies so that they can actually start deriving a level of transparency and control as they work with their agency ecosystem.
Yeah, it's huge. And to your first point, we see that a lot as well.
Yeah.
Companies trying to take their data and turn it into an asset, really leveraging it in channels, stitching it together, getting control of it, and bringing it together as an asset. Talk to me a little bit about how you see digital ad experiences transforming and changing in the future. What do you see the future of advertising to be?
What's really fascinating is that the future is now. It's just not evenly distributed. Not my quote,
Yeah.
of course. But it's already coming and we can see it. So a really fundamental change started about 10 years ago when we started doing display advertising with cookies. And we started to measure that. And all of a sudden we realized that we can create this closed loop advertising mechanism. We can target media and now hyper-target it. We can put it out there. We can measure results and then we can optimize it, right? And that's what brought sort of automation and really a new way of thinking to what we do with advertising. And that's evolved. Facebook came along and geolocation came along and the app ecosystem came along. So I think that the expansion of this closed loop thinking is going to continue for years to come. And that's probably one of the biggest changes that's everybody's going to continue coming onto. But at the same time, there are some other really, really cool things that are beginning to happen, right? The proliferation of formats and the expansion of formats is going to be very important. We're going to see a lot coming in terms of AR and VR, right? Apple's release of the AR kit, I think, is going to do great things for that.
I think so too.
But as consumers, I think we're going to start seeing more cohesive and more targeted advertising. We're going to start seeing the things that are more relevant, right? We're going to see less and less of advertising that we feel as time wasters, right? And hopefully start reacting. And I think marketers are going to start seeing better results and be able to make faster and more agile decisions on what they need to do.
We talk a little bit about measurement and data there in the past and talking about how the future of advertising. Tell me a little bit about what's the future of measuring the effectiveness of advertising. So often we use these proxy metrics that don't necessarily measure really what the customer experience is or whether or not the customer enjoyed it or whether it led to a purchase. We track clicks or we track engagement. Sure. What do you see the future of measurement being for companies that are truly measuring how their digital advertising is creating great customer experiences?
So it's a fascinating question, right? And we could spend hours talking just about that. But what I think is going to happen is, and we've seen sort of the evolution of these proxies, right? These proxies are becoming more and more complex and more sophisticated. And I think that's going to continue. There are some metrics that are a little more direct, but by and large, we are in the world of proxies because there are many levels of indirection as we go from, let's say, brand to lead generation to actual acquisition and conversion at the tail end. But I think that the future is not just in the evolution of these proxies. The future is in looking beyond the advertising metrics. Here's what I mean. when I think of the role of the CMO and the mandates that they have now that are translating to direct revenue, to growth, they're beginning to look holistically at the performance of marketing, at what they're getting, the value that they're getting for their marketing spend. So it's now about measuring and creating, analytics and data
Yep.
and insights that go across marketing, advertising, broader marketing, commerce, right? Looking at how the certain attribution models are actually relating to customer experience measures, right?
Yep.
And customer retention and things like that. So
Yep.
I think that the future of measurement is at looking at things more holistically, right? And beginning to get out of the silos of these are my commerce metrics, these are my online, owned property metrics, these are my
Absolutely.
media metrics,
Yep.
right? And starting to look across.
That's awesome. Dennis, it's been a pleasure. You heard it here, folks, the future of advertising. Thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you with us.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.